Like I said earlier, in 2010, when I went back to Houston, I found a lot of my old bands and old musicians. Played again with those bands, and one of those bands again was Box of Rocks. Box of Rocks had gotten a pretty big name back in the 90s because we used to blow up a lot of stuff on stage, used a lot of pyrotechnics. Sean Bummel was the lead singer of the original Box of Rocks. Actually, I've known Sean since elementary school. He's actually one of my oldest friends. We've known each other for over 40 years now. So I had been playing all over the area with Wise Guy and X and jamming with everybody, and he came to me and said, "Hey, let's put Box of Rocks together again." I said, "Yeah, sure." Mark Thigpen, who was the original Box of Rocks bass player, was playing a lot of Houston and Galveston area bands already, including X, and therefore, so we started looking for a bass player first, and that's when we came up with Freddie Miller, who had been our original guy that ran Lights with Box of Rocks in 1994. Not only had Freddie just run Lights with the band, but I was in two other bands up in Dallas, Fort Worth with Freddie in 97 and then again in 98 and 99. Freddie was the bass player in Row 7 band and at Bad Obsession band, both featured earlier in the documentary. So with this new lineup, we decided to go ahead and, Box of Rocks again, Box of Rocks rides again. And, we pretty much kept it in the family because Devin, who's a new lead guitar player, was Freddie's nephew. And that was something special, something you'll only find in the music industry, is that when Devin was a little kid, like 2 or 3, he would come over to Box of Rocks practices. Like 2 or 3 years old, they'd all be running around outside, and little kids would be wanting to hear Dirty Deeds. And we were like, I asked them later, what is it with Dirty Deeds? Well, when they were little kids, they thought it was Dirty Deeds and the Thunder G. Box of Rocks band has always been both serious and silly at the same time. So on our set list every night with the name of the set songs, much like we put a bomb signal when the pyros would go off, instead of putting Dirty Deeds down on the set list, we'd just write Thunder Chief. Another thing that I will say is through the years that my old friend Sean Bummel must have been practicing, because where in the original Box of Rocks in 1994 he played guitar on just a couple songs, now Sean can play one hell of a mean lead. Somehow during the course of over the 18 years that I was gone, these guys had kept going with Box of Rocks, and there were several different lineups with several different players, but they had stick to pretty much the same song list or the same kind of genre of songs, and pretty much the same gimmicks. We still have the wireless guitars, and there's still anything we could do to surprise our audience, just like we did in 1994. Following along with Box of Rocks tradition, anything new that we could come up and get away with, we did. But a lot of the signature things about the band, like Sean drinking out of the beaker you see sitting over on the left-hand side of the screen, and the bass player having the bass down around his knees, and the stick figures, and all the fun, kind of goofy things about Box of Rocks, those traditions got upheld in this band for over 18 years, no matter who was in the lineup. Because honestly, it was those goofy, silly little things about the band that people remembered the band for. Of course, there was one thing missing from the new Box of Rocks. We have to remember that this is 2012. And whereas in 1994, Box of Rocks was known to always use explosives on stage, in 2012, it is no longer cool to blow stuff up on stage. We've had 9/11 happen and the Great White Accident. And, it is no longer cool for your band to blow up stuff or set things on fire on stage. So that was a different, we had to come up with different stuff. But we still use a lot of the same gimmicks we had before. And so what we did is we had a lot of fog machines, and we did have some dry ice and the strobe lights and the occasional sound of something blowing up. What's funny is we must have really made quite an impact back in the mid-90s, because the new Box of Rocks, almost everywhere we went, one of the first questions I was asked was if we were going to set off pyrotechnics, to which I said, no, we don't do that anymore. What is kind of neat is I could always be that spaz that I am when I'm on stage with Box of Rocks, because I'm just in my natural habitat in that Another thing I thought is very healthy about Box of Rocks, it was oftentimes hang out and actually do something that a lot of bands don't do, and that's called practice. Now, I didn't necessarily say practice the songs that you plan to perform, because a lot of times at band practice for Box of Rocks, we would play stuff that was completely not even on our list, or we were never ever going to play live anywhere. We just wanted to practice them to make sure that we were tight together, and that way we knew we were going to play this song, that we could play anything. So that almost goes along with the theory of don't think forward, think in reverse, or think upside down, which has always been the Box of Rocks. I mean, if it makes sense, by all means, do it the opposite way. And that's the way this band has always worked. And because it's worked that way, it's actually kept us alive and kept us doing something different and original. And I don't think anybody could duplicate this. There's no way. Some people say with there a yin, there is a yang, and with a good, there is an evil. And Box of Rocks is always kind of been that way, because it's kind of like having 4 Dr. Jekylls and 4 Mr. Hydes in the same band. That's one thing about Box of Rocks, is that we always did goofy stuff on stage. And this time around, both Freddie and Devin would wear these derby hats. And Devin was always walking around the club. That's why you don't see him much footage here, is because he's actually wireless out there dancing with the girls and doing different things. Every now and then you'll see him creep back off on stage. So the wireless lead guitar player was always one thing about Box of Rocks that was always there, even back in '94. Box of Rocks has always been a high energy type band and full type, and that high energy oftentimes we use between each other on stage. And then there are things that go wrong from time to time, but that kind of makes it more for the excitement of Box of Rocks. I mean, that is what Box of Rocks is. It's like sometimes it's like the high energy excitement almost leads to a disaster, takes us up to the razor's edge, and then backs off. So literally, we always have had our audiences wondering, what the hell are these guys going to do next? And you never really knew what we were going to do next, because we could come out and do something that you completely did not expect us to do, or completely just did not expect it was going to happen at all. And that was the beauty of Box of Rocks. This particular night you're seeing footage of is at Pier 30 in Freeport, Texas. And this was a fun place to play, and it was a fun night. Because that summer they had problems actually with shark attacks down there on Surfside Beach. And they weren't able to swim for a while, and they were looking for this damn shark. And well, the day we happened to play, earlier that afternoon, we could hear everybody yelling and screaming and run out of the club. Well, they had actually caught that damn shark, and they dragged him in, and the poor shark, they put him on display in the bait shop next door, so people could wander in and see the band, and then they could walk outside and look at this poor dead shark there on the ice. So that was a big night for them. I'm happy that they got their man-eating shark. And Sean and I also laughed about that evening, because in a similar gig we played back in the 90s with Box of Rocks, the original Box of Rocks. There was another adventure, but it was with an inflatable shark that Sean had bought, and we tied it to the top of this band. So that's a different story I'll get into another time. But it was funny watching this whole town, the band with a shark on top of it. Box of Rocks always closed the show with Sweet Emotion. Right there before the bridge, where it goes da 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 on the drum part, we bust into it. That's where the major explosion would happen. Back in '94 and '95, we would set off just a wall of fire. I mean, you could not miss it. The whole place was just engulfed in flames, and we couldn't do that anymore. But we did play Sweet Emotion, and so I just stand up, and in that moment, you could see everybody in the club, you could kind of see the oh shit look on their face, like are they going to blow something up? Or the club owner would look at us like, oh my god, no. And anyway, we come to that moment, get everybody's attention, everybody look, and they kind of, everybody would take a deep breath, and then we just continue to jam on, because we can no longer do that stunt, because now we're in 2012, times are different. But with or without the stunt of the explosives, Box of Rocks was good at entertaining people, and that's what Box of Rocks always did. And I was proud to be in the first Box of Rocks, and I was even prouder almost 20 years later to come around and play for Box of Rocks and be in the last version of Box of Rocks. And I think that says a lot that a band stays around for 20 years playing. And really, truly, that's just entertainment right there. That's good friends, good jams, good memories out of that Box of Rocks band. No matter what we did, everywhere we went, we had a good time.